Alright, so welcome to another video from the Chart Readers. Hey, if you haven't already, check out the website, chartreaders.com. At the bottom right here, you will see a place to sign up. It is completely free. It's weekly emails, and really it revolves around what we're going to talk about on this video today, the major markets, right? Sometimes I'll throw some extra stock info, but really it's all about this right here, right? So what are we doing today? We are going to review the majors. So right now we're looking at the NASDAQ. Last week I did a NASDAQ only video because I got a little in depth, but depending on how this goes, we'll either include the Dow and the S&P in this as well, or I'll break it out again. But it was a very scary week for a lot of people, but in all honesty, it was no surprise to me. And I did call out a lot of what did end up happening on my email, the one I just showed on the website, right? So again, if you read the email, it really should not have been a surprise. But let's start, right? So what are we going to do? We're going to look at the daily and the weekly. We're probably also going to look at the monthly and the quarterly, just because, again, I do take a longer term view on the major markets versus just these individual tickers that I like to swing trade, right? Our moving averages are exactly the same, so no changes there. The way I make my horizontal lines, the support and resistance, is exactly the same. And then again, we're still using the MACD and the RSI. I still like the RSI more than the MACD, but again, I use both as that double confirmation. And again, 80% of the work is up here. This is that last 20% cherry on top, right? So what are we looking at? Look, simply put, we are literally dollars away from my death line, right? That's obviously the very first thing I want to stress. So I did establish death lines for the other two markets. No new lines. I just established which is the scary one, right? So look, we're still above it, right? Obviously, we came much lower than it on Friday, but we did close above it. And hey, I don't care if we close a penny above it, a dollar above it. Above is above in my head, right? So I still need it to close under before I actually get scared. And then it's actually more than just closing once. You got to do it twice, right? Same rule for breaking up is the same rule for breaking down. I'm going to zoom out just a bit to kind of show where this has been before, right? So the last time we were here was only a few months ago. It seems like forever, right? Because this was one hell of a run that we all hopefully made a lot of money on. But there was a point where it actually looked like it was getting very, very scary. And look, we did 1 2-day close. There was nothing significant with that, confirmation, right? And we did get a pop. That next day was a scare. And again, look, though this was technically 2 days under, I would want to see a red or a green, right? Like we did here. It just kind of started to do this upward confirmation. There was never really a downward confirmation, right? That's what we're looking for exactly right here. Are we going to keep this like gap down thing, or are we going to kind of do this stay along this line and then maybe go up again, right? Look, again, I'll know as the days happen and we interpret it, right? But right now it doesn't seem like it's good, right? Again, looking down here, we have red over green. It's like a traffic light, right? We want green on top. Green is good, red is bad, right? So super simple. I'll be honest, again, just it all hovers around this 10,844 number that I got here. So looking at the weekly, again, it's really bad because we did just lose the 200, right? And I'm just going to zoom out a lot. The last time we lost the 200 was that COVID moment, right? We did recover very quickly, and that led to a monster recovery. But if we don't recover next week, if we do the opposite of this and basically go down again, look, I got to zoom out to see the last, we haven't lost with confirmation in two. It was actually this right here. It was back in 08. So keep that in mind, right? Weekly looks really scary. And again, look, I'm seeing red over green. I know it's barely visible, but I see the red color more. I see green on top, but again, it looks like green's about to go down, and this bad boy is at negative 400. That's not good, right? I never talk about the MACD number, but hey, positive's better than negative, let alone zero is better than negative 400, right? So this definitely looks really worrisome. And look, I'm just going to go in the quarter real quick. Let's go in the monthly. Again, I've seen a lot more people post this. I talked about this last week and on my email, right? We have not lost the 50 on the monthly in 12 years. It was really around 2010 the last time it happened, right? So we tested it here and tested it here, lost it here, right? So there's a lot of signs pointing to scary, and again, there's a lot of signs kind of reconfirming this 10844 number, because literally, I mean, what is the 50 at? The 50 is actually lower than my number, so it's higher. No, sorry, so it's $9 higher. Oh wow, to the penny $9. So the 50 is at 10853. If you see in the left box right there, my line is at 10844. So literally, I mean, again, things like that make me feel good. The point of these lines aren't to get the exact number, but you know, the closer it is, obviously, the more reassuring it is, right? But yeah, the NASDAQ is not looking good at all. Let's get over to the S&P 500. So the S&P 500, what I actually did was I colored one of my previous lines. So this upcoming line does not look like the death line. I actually think it's the one underneath, and I will show you why. So unfortunately, it's kind of an ugly zoom in order to see it, but let me zoom in a bit. And look, really, it's the exact same story, right? We came to test this line. We came all the way up. We came down. I'm surprised that we're not at the same death line moment that we are on the NASDAQ, but I actually do value this 3,500 number a little more than the 3,600. Again, this is a really important support, right? It was the same bounce point we saw on the NASDAQ, but just with the S&P, the way I'm looking at it, I saw this one as the worst one, and again, I'll show you why shortly. Again, though, like I said, just really, I don't have to go into this chart too much, I think, because it's a lot of the exact same thing, right? Yeah, almost to the, look, let me actually just, we're looking at the S&P right now. I've switched over to the NASDAQ, and it's almost identical, right? I'm not zooming at all. It's almost identical, right? Look at all that. So again, I like that. I like seeing the consistency and the correlation amongst them. Don't get me wrong. I hate that it's bad news across them, but they need to say the same thing for me to know my technicals are still in play, if you understand that. So again, let's take a look. I'm going to actually jump out to the monthly. So this is why I am calling my death line the 3,500 number instead of 36. I am going to do the correlation with the NASDAQ and put it on that 50 moving average. So again, it looked like it should have been this 36 because again, the charts were so identical, but I'm going to put a little more weight on this 50. I will note that, look, we've been a little bit lower here. And again, the last time was around this 2010 line, right? It looks like actually a little 2011-ish. But again, I'm going to do the 50 line correlation more than my horizontal line correlation. So sorry, I froze a little bit right there on that zoom. But yeah, that is the S&P. And again, like I said, 3,500 is my new death line for there. Oops, sorry. So coming into the DJ30, the Dow Jones Industrial, again, same chart on the daily, right? Bounced off this all the way up to the 200, all the way down. Again, it would seem like the correlation would be this line to be the death line. I have to zoom out again, so sorry. But again, it's actually not. It's the line underneath. It's this 28.5 number that I got here. And the reason for that, I actually had to go all the way to the quarterly. But the quarterly, so sorry to zoom in so much, I hate doing that, has a good correlation with the 20 moving average. And again, for me, I'm going to take a little more weight in my manually drawn line lining up to a computer generated line. I think that has a little more value. So that is why I made this my death line. But look, right now, the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones are just a little bit more further away than the NASDAQ is to the death lines. My sincere opinion is when all three cross, that's going to matter more than just one of the three crossing. However, NASDAQ crossing first should drive the rest to drop as well. So I'm just going to end it here real quick. Look, I don't have this as my death line, even though that would be the quarterly 20 average correlation. But I do think if NASDAQ loses this, it'll drop here, and that'll really propel the other two to get into their death line zones as well. So obviously a little bit more negative of a video than ideal, but look, there are ways to do well in a crash. I promise you that. You can literally either just keep your money on the side and do nothing, or come up with a good strategy that will make you as much money as you would make if it was a booming market. And I sincerely do mean that. And your homework should be to go figure out what that strategy would be, right? But I do have a plan for the crash. My plan is not to keep my money on the side. It's actually to put it in and hopefully make some good money. So, yeah, trade safely. I know everything looks negative, but again, there are ways to make money in this negative. So, and hey, just taking all your money out and putting it on the side is more than a valid option as well, because the goal at the minimum is not to lose money. From there, hey, making money is obviously better, right? But don't lose money. That alone will do so well for you, especially compounded over your life, right? Trade safely. I really hope you're learning. And again, I sincerely appreciate the time you're putting into watching these. I really appreciate it. And I love in the comments, getting more questions, which is really cool. So don't hesitate to ask anything. Hey, have a great one.